Celtic cross,
Yeah.
getting back to that, we understand that it was used for navigation,
Yeah.
but then we now know that man settled
Uh-huh.
and created settlements around the world
Yeah.
at the end of the Ice Age. So what was the Celtic cross used for then, if man didn't need to navigate?
Well, man still needed to navigate,
Okay.
so that's only part of it.
So trading
Yeah, trading and moving around and still, I suppose, following the seasons to a degree.
and can the Celtic cross be used for anything else?
Well, the thing about the Celtic cross is it really is an ancient concept, is as above, so below. What people don't realise, I suppose, is that before the advent of the watch, the creation of the watch, which is by Harrison, I suppose, in the 18th century, was the solving of longitude. Right? And the watch was named the watch after the watch keeping at sea, or keeping watch.
Right.
Okay, which may get some of our listeners interested because of the Watchers and the followers of Horus.
Mm-hmm.
So come back to what it was then. The Celtic cross was a protractor that reflected the wheels of stars. Wheels of stars means zodiacs, which is zodiac, if you like. It's the arc of stars, the wheel of stars,
Yeah.
the wheel of animals.
Right.
And so the Celtic cross was a protractor based on that, based on the 360 degrees of stars that surround the sun and surround the earth, from which we kept time, from which we kept watch.
Right.
So the wheel cross, or the Celtic cross, is also a clock,
Okay.
a reflection of time by the stars.
Which is of paramount importance for people who were growing crops.
Absolutely, and also for the ceremonies that go with the thanksgiving from the sun. Now, you should go back to the Celtic cross and understand that wheel cross, or Odin's wheel, or the Celtic cross, was known and is known as a solar symbol.
Right.
What people didn't realise was that it actually tracked the sun. See, the stars themselves are fixed. Most of them are fixed, and certainly in our lifetimes they're fixed. And really what the ancients did was they fixed the stars, gave them names from a shamanistic, animistic background. So you find zodiac creatures different from different cultivations, or different peoples of the world, use different types of symbology, but mostly it's based on what they see in nature around them,
Right.
in the same as the as above, so below shamanistic concept, animistic way.
Was there any animal that was the same?
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because of course in Egypt they talk about the lion very much as being Leo, which we still use now, which the Greeks used, which logically is an acceptable way to go on, because the Greeks conquered Egypt, therefore they took some of their symbology. But there are some different kinds of zodiac signs that could be said to be the same, but it's actually not important. What's important is, look, let me give you an example. The Southern Hemisphere, there is a constellation called the Typewriter. So that was named in our time by something that we were familiar with to recognise. So the idea of a zodiac sign is that you recognise that area of the sky by joining up the dots, by using image.
Yeah.
Okay, to join up the dots so that you could pass to your children's children or to anybody else a universal sign to recognise a position in the sky. Okay.
And does that give you a position of yourself on Earth?
In what way do you mean?
To know where you are?
Yes, it doesn't in itself. Okay, a zodiac sign doesn't in itself. It's what's between you and the zodiac sign. Now, for instance, the sun comes between you and the zodiac sign. So we have a very obvious thing that isn't well appreciated. If the Egyptians understood the zodiac as we know it in 360 degrees, and they also said such things as birth signs or sun signs, in other words, you were born in the age of Pisces or in Leo or so forth, you were born in, in the sign of Pisces or Leo, that would be called a birth sign or a sun sign or a star sign. It's quite obvious when you think about it that they had to know the Earth was round and that the Earth actually went round the Sun. It's impossible not to do so, because the star sign of Leo, if you were born in the age of, or in the time of Leo, okay, or in the day of Leo, I'm sorry, the Sun is between you and that star sign. Therefore you can't see it, it's daylight.
Right.
And the only way that you can tell what star sign the Sun is in is to know what's the opposite of it the night before.
Right.
So when you look at the night before at midnight, you look at the star sign in the sky, you're looking out into space. When you look into inner space towards the Sun and try to see the star sign on the other side of the Sun, you can't do it, so it's daylight.
Why do
so you would need to know
yeah.
that the Earth went round the Sun, and you would need to know that the Earth was round.
Absolutely. Why do you think it's important to know whether you were born in the year?
I don't personally think it's important to know.
Why do the ancients?
Well, they believed that the energy of life, that life itself, okay, that electromagnetic energy, whatever you want to call it, that spark of life came from the Sun.
Right.
They were very wise. They knew what we know scientifically today, that we are actually solar energy. What we eat, for instance an apple, or we drink a bottle of wine. Now, one of the greatest examples, it gets more expensive as time goes by, but I like to buy a bottle of wine that was created the day my friend was born, or a friend was born, to give it to them as a birthday present, because what I'm doing is giving them a bottle of bottled solar energy from the year
Right,
they were born. As I said, it gets more expensive as I get older and they get older. But the concept behind it is that the grape that absorbed the sunlight through the leaves of the vine is now bottled energy, okay? And because you consume it, it becomes part of you, and therefore you are sunlight. Now we know that that's true today, but they knew it then. So what they said is the day that you were born was very important because of the influences of the positive and negative, and they cut it up like that, didn't they? They said, you know, earth, wind, fire and water, different solar energies dependent on the season, and of the influences of the planets that were around it created different characters in their view.
So this is the Sun as the father of light, giving us life.
Giving us life. So if you think about the father-mother relationship, then the father seeds the earth with energy and created that energy together with the soil of the earth, or with the seed of mankind, or the seed of a lion, or the seed of a bird, or any of the species combined together creates a new life with the combination of those two items. So they saw that very clearly. And of course we know that that's true today. That's exactly how it is.
And that's where the origin of the worship of the sun.
Well, yes, I think there were a lot of disputes, particularly in ancient Egypt, about this, whereby people actually the priests, if you like, worshipped the age of the zodiac sign. In other words, what they were doing was they were worshipping the creative and destructive cycles of time. So they saw that as a pantheon of gods, which was based on the zodiacs. What happened was Akhenaten, he started a religion that really our monotheistic society comes from, which was based on that the sun gives life, and therefore the sun is the creator and the destroyer. And so from that point of view, he upset the priests, as it was, of a moon, which means Aries, Amun, Amen, we say at the end of the Lord Prayer.
One thing that's always seen with this solar image of the atom
Yes.
is the serpent. Can you explain what you think?
Yes, the serpent around that, and it's actually said, I think, in the Book of the Dead and so forth, is that the sun, the north pole of the sun in astrology is directly in the first coil of the serpent as we know it. Well, funnily, in England we call it the worm. The Chinese call it the dragon, and so do a lot of Eastern ones, and it has many names. And in one part in Egypt they didn't have it as a dragon or a serpent at all, but they had it as a combination creature of a hippopotamus, a lion, and a crocodile. And the reason for that was because it kills you as well as gives you life. It gives you life and it gives you death. It's dualistic in its way. As it spins, this serpent in the sky, which we know as the constellation Draconis, as it spins above the north pole of the sun, it takes away your life. So for instance, 70 times annual spin of that is your lifetime,
Right.
from birth to death. Okay, so it controls both the forces of creation and destruction as they saw it.
And so it also measures time.
Measures time. So it spins at the rate of slightly less than 1 degree every 24 hours. So that's as the Earth travels around the Sun. But it also spins at the rate of 15 degrees every hour to give you the daily spin. So as the Earth spins, it spins, but at the same time at midnight, every night, it starts 1 degree slightly off its previous night's position.
That's incredibly accurate.
Incredibly accurate.
And so the ancients could have, the Egyptians, whoever they might be, would have been able to really hone down on the time of day.
Yes, they would.
Let alone the time of year.
Yes, they would, but you have to ask the question, which is the question I asked. Okay, if they could do that, what did they do it with?